Hi, Shoojit Sircar. Thank you so much for joining us. I was saying while we mourn Irfan's loss and know that, he has left this void which nobody can fill, we must also celebrate what he has gifted us through cinema. And you have been fortunate enough to work with him in this beautiful film called Piku. But before we come to Piku, I want to jog your memory back to the first time that you remember seeing Irfan. For me, I was in high school, I remember, and there was this film called Drishti, made by Govind Nihalani. And there was Dimple Kapadia and Shekhar Kapoor, who were known faces. And there was this man who and the most captivating thing about him was his eyes. He had this gaze which could look into your soul, like people say. So that's my first memory of knowing that, okay, this person is Irfan Khan. What was your first memory of Irfan?
Well, my first memory of Irfan was Ek Doctor Ki Maut. So that was one of my favorite films by Tapan Sinha, and also Pankaj Kapoor was there, Shabana ji was there. So I think in that nobody knew him, at that time when he was doing Ek Doctor Ki Maut. And that's when I saw him. But first, face to face, I think meeting happened when I called him for a special show of Vicky Donor. Yeah, we spoke before that, of course. 2-3 years before Vicky Donor, we spoke. And that was for a bizarre reason that we spoke. Okay. He said, I just got a call one day. I was on my pre-production of Shoe Bite. He was this call and somebody told me that aap baat kariye Irfan Khan se. So, for me, Irfan Khan was at that time was one of the finest actors. And he called me, he said, Shoojit, तुम सुना है तुम शू बाइट कर रहे हो और उसकी स्टोरी थोड़ी सी ऐसे 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 है. मैंने बोला यस इरफान, इट इज लाइक दैट. तो वो फोन में ही बोल रहा, अरे यार उफ यार. मैंने बोला, आई आस्क्ड हिम व्हाट हैपेंड. यार मैं भी ऐसी सेम स्टोरी पे काम कर रहा था यार, मतलब So he said, "Are you sure you're doing this film?" I said, "Irfan, अभी तो almost pre-production में हम जाने के shoot करें." Oh, good, yeah. He said, "It's good, very good. You must go, yeah. This is such a beautiful, and I know, yeah, तुम लोग ठीक ठाक करोगे." At that time, he just knew about Yaha. I think he had seen Yaha or not. Yes, he's seen because of Jimmy Shergill, okay. Also because they have worked together in Hassel. So that was my introduction, and he was quite. First, he was quite dejected that he was also working on the same subject. So then, when Vicky Donor released, so I called him. So he was of course, because of that phone call and the kind of film that I was doing, that particular story that he was also doing, I think some connection happened. Okay, I guess. I don't know what. Maybe when you work on a similar subject, there's some kind of a tuning and wavelength that happens. That of course, your style and treatment is different. So, and he came out of the theater of Vicky Donor. He really liked the film, and at length he started speaking to me. And then, that was the main, he said, you will be in my radar, I will be looking forward to what you guys are doing next. So that was my first. And since then we kept in touch. He will call, after 3 months or 4 months, kya kar rahe ho next? What are you doing next? Okay. Then I called him for Madras Cafe, that I'm doing a film on Madras Cafe. So that subject was also very, quite, for him, he said, ये भी तुम फिर से कोई out of the box ये subject लग रहा है. मैंने बोला कि नहीं, आप आके देखो. So those are the interactions that I had, I remember.
Yaha was in 2005, and I'm sure before that you've been watching a lot of films and you've come across, Irfan's performances from Maqbool to Namesake and Pan Singh
Yeah.
Tomar. Is there any one performance of Irfan that really made a impression on you? Like, I'm sure every performance did, but something which totally blew your mind.
In that sense, I think Hasil, for me, that was quite a path breaking, in terms of his performance, what he did, he and Tishu, of course,
Yeah.
the way they treated the character. But nobody has seen a gangster like that, in terms of not a gangster, a college goon who's in politics and also who's into various things and working, and a person who is normal, a person who is simple, normal, who just goes around, has his, assistants, just so normally doing things like an ordinary college boy. I mean,
Correct.
who is introduced to guns, and especially in UP, the kind of college that he belonged. So I think that was quite a. And then I think one of his favorite performances that really I really kept with me was Namesake. So that was another film which was had a strong impression on me, very very strong impression.
And he played a Bengali in that, and a convincing one at that.
Uh, oh yes, yes. I mean, he had a lot of Bengali connection because of Shatarupa, of course,
Yeah.
and his first film with Tapan Sinha, who is another Bengali director. Not first film, one of the earlier films. So he had a lot of Bengali connection. Yes, he had. Yeah.
So finally, I mean, Piku happened, but before that, when you were writing Piku with Juhi Chaturvedi and developing Rana's role and character in the script,
Right.
did you have Irfan in mind?
Absolutely. He was, since the first day me and Juhi conceived that character, it was always there. Uh, he was, and we called him that, hello Irfan, we are doing something and we're writing something. So we soon going to come to you. And so he said, yeah, jaldi aa jao yaar, very good, jaldi aao. तो क्या कर रहे हो, jaldi aao. He was so fascinated by
Okay.
our kind of works. He was waiting that when we should um, be ready. So he was absolutely always there, and we knew that somewhere, because if you go back and see that character, and if you read in the script, I don't think anybody would have agreed to do that because there's nothing actually.
Correct.
Neither there is nothing what you can say a solid uh, as a character who looks for, okay, something happens to his, nothing happens to him.
Correct.
So we were so sure about he surely is going to bring some of his whatever craft, and that's what he did with such ease. That was the beautiful thing. A character who has got nothing, who is lost in his career, who doesn't have a family, and he does some kind of a business, his father's business, which have no clue what he does,
Yeah.
and trying to be an honest man and living honestly, but how the world is. So in that, all that, he's
Yeah.
actually was nobody,
Correct. Correct. Absolutely right.
and still he was trying. And for him, Piku was also. He later said in a lot of interviews, I think in that, I always wanted to do for a long time something romantic,
Uh,
he would say. So I think he thought that was a romantic film. So, and for us, it was not a romantic film as such, but
yeah.
yes, it was a film about relationships. Yeah.
How did he react to the narration when you guys went and told him the story? What was his first reaction like? Because it's an unusual story.
It was work in progress scripts, but we thought, uh, let's go and bounce it off to him and see how he reacts to this. So another very uh, fascinating thing about, like when you meet a lot of other actors, uh, in the film industry, there's some kind of a um, what should I say, that there's some kind of they're in a hurry. There's something which just makes you कि यार कुछ होना चाहिए, कुछ करना चाहिए, कुछ करते हैं. मतलब they're always in a hurry when you meet them. So even if you're sitting and having a narration, so most of the actors, and I feel that there's something, I mean, I
Restlessness.
don't know. I mean,
Restless.
it's not restlessness is there. A lot of, I don't know. So this one thing is sure was absolutely that comes with Irfan is when you go and meet, and even if you meet him for 2 minutes or 5 minutes, he comes with a lot of calmness. So he comes with a lot of peace. He will look at you. He will talk to you. He will smile at you. So there is a lot of a genuineness in terms of his interaction. So that was given, and especially with us, um, especially with me. I mean, he was absolutely open. He will say "Dada ha," and uh, so in the first narration, of course, he was quite taken aback that he, because he thought it's a romantic film. You know, he always thought that we told him that we are thinking of this characters and this and all that, Mr. Bachchan. So he thought it's a romantic film. But then after the narration, he was rolling his cigarettes and he was smoking and he was chai pida. It was in Mud Island, I remember. So first narration, he was a little shocked because he thought kuch romance hoga, you know. But the script weaved in a very different kind of relationship. So it took time for him to that where we are pitching it. So the first day went on very well, but of course, he was on game with the character. He wanted to do it. There was no question about that. But I just wanted him to be, you know, completely elated with whatever he was doing. So so then next narration week, I called him at office. I said, "Come." So I will. And by the time we had done some, so then he'll call in the middle and he will explain. "अच्छा, ये scene ऐसा भी हो सकता है, ऐसा हो सकता है." Then we'll have a debate. Me and him will discuss. No, Irfan, इसमें तो फिर ये तो love story हो जाएगा. This is not a love story.
Okay.
Oh, अच्छा. Then because for an actor to come into the script, it takes time. So when in office he came in Juhu, and then another day we started performing and giving him. I started performing and giving him narration about characters. Yeah, move. Then he started getting uh, into the character, and then he never left it. I mean, he just uh, owned it with what it is. The way he owned the character of Rana.
Now, he also mentioned that in an interview that he had never met Deepika, even though he was in the industry for so long and she was also in the industry for so long. But before doing Piku, he never met her, not even for a hi, hello at a party or anywhere. So, how was it when you guys met for the first time? And I'm sure you would have been interested in knowing how the vibes are between them.
Since the beginning itself, the narration, when we started getting in touch with all these actors, I think uh, my approach was quite straight and simple, and it was non-Bollywoodish like. I mean, they also got the vibe that this is his way of doing this. Possibly, this is the Shoojit is doing. So I think uh, there was no condition, there was no self-interest of doing this. Just or the only interest was to make this character and make them believe it. So also, of course, even they came without any baggage. Even the Deepika and Mr. Bachchan, when they entered the project, they came without any baggage. So that and they knew when Irfan is there, you have to be there without any baggage. So there can't be any baggage of the so-called, the cinematic world of whatever. So I think, and Irfan was also very, keen to meet Deepika, and Deepika was also was quite keen to meet Irfan. Uh, so I think their meeting was quite cool. I mean, they met on one of the reading sessions, and uh, they spoke of different things. They just read a couple of scenes, I think. But I think the real mm, understanding of Irfan and Deepika, I think their actually bonding started actually while they were shooting it. And I also shot the film, in a um, like this, like the narrative which was there in the script in a chronology. I didn't go, back and forth like. So I shot it like from the first scene itself till the end. So it was shot like that. So they were also, knowing each other. So, but I think it was so ordinary for all of us, including Irfan. So I think that made, I think, Irfan quite fascinated about this entire process in the film, that he started believing it more, even for the because everything was so simple and ordinary. And I think that came out in the performances also, and in everything of the film. And Irfan was of course fascinated by Deepika, because Deepika was almost at that time, I think, one of the leading. I mean, she still is one of the leading actresses of her, and of course commercially successful. So I think for him it was quite a. Uh, I knew that he was very happy that he was working with one of the leading lady of our industry. So and on the other hand, for Deepika also, she was also very quiet that he's working with one of the finest actors that India is, that we have. So it was like that.
Writing a role like Rana's and Piku's is half the battle, and then it's the actors who breathe life into those roles, which Irfan and Deepika did so wonderfully. And Irfan, I hear, is quite an improviser, right? Um, that famous knife scene, if you could recount, I believe that you let the actors run with the scene. Is that how that played out?
Because of course that was not the um, interval scene, because we don't design any intervals in the film. I just wanted, in that scene, of course it was written very quite beautifully, but when they performed and when the scene ended, it didn't go into any kind of a chaotic climax, of that particular scene. So we wanted that scene is this almost like it's gone. Now it's all three different people, three different ways they're going to part of. he surely is going to coming back, leaving them midway. So that kind of a scenario we wanted to create. So, but it was not happening. So like that. So then I got all three of them, and I said, listen, this is where the scene is now. I don't want the scene end. I just want three of you just carry on shouting in the middle of this highway on top of each other, and let's see where it goes. Like Mr. Bachchan is very, very particular about, about script, words not going here and there, But he's also a great. Whether Irfan later told, I didn't know, sir, that you are also a master in improvisation, and of course Irfan though is he can go on any length. So he was improvising. Actually, the scene was quite long. I had to cut it, on my edit table. And in the middle of it, even Deepika didn't know where. Sometimes she will say something, sometimes in the middle of the gap. But I think with that knife throwing down, it just broke. It just ended and sealed the scene. So no, he's a solid improviser, and like for example, a lot of actors are like Mr. Bachchan. In one take or two take, he's done. He's very good. But with Irfan, in each and every take, he's maturing.
Okay.
He's maturing with each and every take. He can go on giving you takes. He can give you, but I don't shoot like that. I just shoot not more than 3 takes, 2 takes or 3 takes. Okay. I'm sometimes go with 1 take also. So he was quite surprised. So when he came to know slowly after 3-4 days of the shoot that, okay, this director is not taking more, 4 takes. He's happy with the first take or the second take, third take. Then he started preparing himself in a different way altogether. Because there's some directors who work for a lot of takes. For me, I don't. But he matures and he's got a lot of improvisation. Once he gets into characters, see, he conceives the character more like a. Uh, I say he keeps a lot of information, right? So what will he do is he will sit quiet. He will not rehearse that. Okay, let's do rehearsals like this. He will listen to you. There were times when I would say, Irfan, I have nothing else to say. I've finished. I am over with briefing. So he would say, rolling his cigarette, no, Dada, you keep talking. You tell me. So I'll keep talking. He will listen. He will just go. He'll do, and he'll put everything in his head. And then he will come on the set, and then he's of course a different person. So that's how he is. I mean, he was actually quite magical, in terms of his, because he was so simple. I think that simplicity brought that magical quality, what I feel.
Okay.
Because sometimes what happens, he brought certain, what I say, spirituality to in the film.
Okay.
In his craft, because he himself is also brings in a lot of peace and calmness. So naturally that quality comes out.
I just want to go through some scenes like which were favorites in Piku. Like even with Deepika, when they are fixing that motor, the interaction between them, while she's holding the torch, and then they are walking down those steps, and Irfan is discussing, that your father is exploiting you in some way. He makes that accusation, and you should get married. And Deepika says, "Are you willing to marry me?" And she makes that, and he says, "Matha kharab nahi hua mera." How were there any improvisations from them at that time, or were there pre-written lines, or were there some changes made?
No, these two scenes, there was no improvisation.
Okay.
These two scenes were absolutely were written lines, and absolutely that's what it was performed. Yes, in terms of performance, there were quite an improvisation, because I was just breaking my head. Where we'll do this scene? Where can we do this scene? Particularly that motor scene, and then I didn't know that Irfan himself was a very good mechanic also. So because I said कि Irfan, मैं ये motor को ऐसे कर देता हूँ थोड़ा सा little bit, so that you can just pull this wire and this, and then you can perform. So he said no. So he got the pump an hour before. My designer got it. वहां पे एक पंप मैकेनिक था, वहां पे उससे पूरा उसने समझ लिया कि ये ऐसे होता है ऐसे होता है. You would see he's into that pump, he's even if Piku is there, but he fixes everything, start karta hai, and also he interacts with that Bodhan who is stuck in the terrace, So those improvisations were performance-wise was there. They would, both of them will do something, and they will not tell me that what they're doing, because they'll say, Sridhar, we will not, because after a point they just wanted to kiss up. You just explain us one, and then because we start imitating you otherwise. So that's what so that's how it was. Like that particular scene where they says Mata Kharabni on the steps, and they completely did themselves.
Okay.
They said, we have done something, you see. So then they came, and I think by the time they were in the film, so they knew what these characters can do. So
even his scenes with Amitabh Bachchan, like where in Benares, there's Irfan explains this whole process of how to get the motion probably better by putting his knees up, and he draws the figure also. pad. And then there's that scene, which is his parting shot to Amitabh Bachchan. Ki,
I'll send you that photograph I have. When I
okay.
was explaining that scene, I'll send you.
And also that Irfan's parting shot to Amitabh Bachchan is, I know that nobody understands you. And then he goes and whispers into his ear that, stop stealing salt. Namak churana band kijiye. ये जो उल्टे सीधे काम करते हो ये सब बंद कर दीजिए.
Yes, that was key. That parting shot that we wanted, key, you know, that I think me and we both decided that this parting shot should be such that all this while this man has given him so much trouble. This old man,
Yeah.
He's not left in any opportunity giving him back because of he was just testing him because this man was. Because Piku was talking to this man, and Piku, so because of his daughter, he was constantly, after this man. So while he was leaving, finally, so I think he thought, why not I give him back? Bahut ho gaya. Abhi, I'll have to give this man, old man, back, and that's what he's saying. Ki namak chuna band kar di, aur ye jo aap sabko, so he gives it back, and he knew that by that time. Not he knew, but I think some kind of trust from Bhaskar Banerjee was there towards this man. That he's a good man.
What are your memories of him as the person? You've said that he had this very calming effect on people. And is there anything else that people would not know about Irfan, which you would like to sort of tell us?
Yes, as I said, Irfan. When he left, it got a deep impact on me. It just shook me. I never thought that it's going to end like this. Because when in London, his treatment was going on, before he went to London, we spoke hours and hours and hours discussing what the treatment pattern should be, what method and all that. And as I said, that there is some kind of his thinking of religion or spiritual or science and medical, all somewhere we had a common wavelength of understanding. Like, for example, I know that on the second meeting of when his treatment was started, we never spoke about films at all in the last 3 years. We just spoke about the human body. He will speak about this magical, that he's feeling something magic is happening in his body. And sometimes on the other side of the phone, I would really feel, I don't know what to say. He would say, magic is happening. The body, my pancreas, my lungs, my heart, my kidney, how we eat. And he was fascinated by this body. Maybe he was in London. He just wanted me to meet so many people. He said, Shrita, I have met so many, and they were not film people at all. So he would tell me that tumko bahut acha lagega, they are very different kind of people. I want you to especially meet this one doctor who's crazy, There was certain kind of a mystic quality in him.
Mm.
He was himself a very magical as a person. So there is some kind of an addiction, that you got attracted to him in whatever way. He was. There was a lot of feminine qualities, that warmth, that he had, which is difficult unless you are with him, unless you stay with him and you understand, you talk. I remember one particular scene that I was planning to shoot in the ghats of Benares, Varanasi, So I told them I'm going to shoot, we're planning to shoot around 8:39. So Irfan came. I have one request, because that was almost the last shoot of I think, absolutely almost the second last day or something. So he came to me and he said, "Shujit, ये सीन तुम शूट कर रहे हो, मेरा एक रिक्वेस्ट है, तुम लेट शूट कर सकते हो इसको?" I बोला, हाँ, what time you want to shoot? I बोला, I want to shoot around 12 or 1, something like that. I think 11 or 12, 1. I said, क्यों? बोलता नहीं, बस तुम इतना, कितने बजे लाइटिंग खत्म हो जाएगा? तो बोलता उसके बाद घाट में ना सबको क्लियर करवा देना है. मैंने, हाँ, मैं क्लियर कर दूंगा. So lighting was done, we cleared everyone. He just came there, and he just sat there for, I think, quite long, for hours. He just wanted to soak in that, that beautiful Banaras Ghats. In the night, it looks really, really beautiful and it feels good there. And so it was just beautiful sitting there, spending time with him.
One of my last questions is, he turned producer also with Kareeb Kareeb Single. He had this sort of want to do this romantic role, I think, for quite some time. Play a leading romantic actor, and he was turning down roles which were negative. He wanted to do positive roles, so he also turned producer, of course. So did you give him any tips on as a producer on how to go about it?
I think he was somewhere wanted to create his production house like us, where it's just a collaboration of some good friendly people.
Okay.
And just a nice environment, and of course, when you have a nice environment and a nice beautiful atmosphere, and also exchange of ideas, and that's where our art can take place. If there is, you need to be very open about what you're talking, what you're discussing, and accepting things. So he was, and of course, I'm going to miss him. I had many plans.
Did you have Irfan in mind for Udham Singh?
Yes, of course. I mean, there was, yeah. But yes, I mean, there are many other projects that we were thinking, and he would come. I would call him, and on the phone, and he said, he knew that phone. I had the Shoojit bolenge, just come to office, and and he loved tea. I would make some special Darjeeling tea for him, so he would love the tea, and he will love the Bengali style of jhalmuri that's always available in my office. So he will come and eat that, and then he will say, "Wow, this is, I want to do this." I want. He was just always was fascinated. Yeah, like when I see Babil now, he was really worried about Babil all the time, but also he was very confident. He's पता नहीं वो क्या करता है, अपने उसमें वो करता रहता है. So now I think there will be, unless I work with Babil, I think it will not, the circle won't be complete, the redemption won't be there.
Right.
So there's not a single day I have passed since last 1.5 since he passed that he's not crossed his mind, all the time. He's all the time somewhere he is there. He's so bright. I mean, that brightness of his is always it's quite close to me. I can't explain.
Thank you so much, Shoojit, for spending this time and giving us an insight into Irfan, the actor and the person. It's invaluable. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Suresh.